Hi guys, welcome back to Harry Makes Up. Today I'm going to talk about under eye concealers, and I thought it'd be good to do a video showing you my favourites that I use both on myself and in my pro kit. And I'll just go through each one in no particular order and say why I like them and let you know what the favourites are. So it's also worth me just saying at this point that I have done a video that specifies specifically on how to cover redness, acne and spots and breakouts, and for that I've kind of concentrated on slightly different products. So if you're looking for products, in particular concealers and foundations to cover those kind of areas, I'll link that video below so you can see that. And like I said, this video is going to concentrate much more on the under eye concealer and kind of counteracting darkness under the eye. So concealer for me is kind of one of those holy grail products that I think I will be forever looking for the perfect concealer. And it is a question as a makeup artist I get asked a lot, which is what my favourite concealer is. So again, in classic makeup artist style, I don't have one favourite. It changes. It depends what needs I'm looking to cover. Generally, like I said, I think if I've got super dark areas to cover under the eyes, what I tend to do is use a product with kind of a serum effect first, so something that has a brightener within the concealer. The first one I've really been enjoying is the Bobbi Brown. This is the Intensive Skin Serum Corrector, and it has the beautiful emblem on the top. And again, it's got a kind of doe foot applicator, and this is a really nice kind of peach counteracting colour. And these come, I think, in all the shades that they do within their normal cream colour correctors, but more of a serum finish. So they're great to use under a concealer as well. So if I have really dramatic coverage or a really dark under eye circles, I'll often use this first. Another product that's just been launched by Estee Lauder, which I'm loving, is their Perfectionist Youth Infusing Brightening Serum and Concealer. So again, the same principle, but this is like a 2-in-1 stick. So with this, I am the colour Light Warm, 1W. So you've got your little kind of serum first, which is a really nice kind of salmony colour. Again, any kind of blue dark colour underneath. You would just pat this on around here, dab it in. I like it with my finger. And then the concealer on this, you could almost use like a foundation stick as well, actually. It's really good coverage. It's a little roll-up cream concealer. I find this super blendable. I find it really long-lasting. And again, you can just get that little bit of extra coverage. So if you find the darkness is mostly here, that's where you can add a tiny bit more of this and then just use this concealer just around the outside, so you don't have to put the serum everywhere. So when it comes to general brightening under the eye, there are a couple of kind of go-to stick concealers that I really like. And I guess these for me are a hybrid between a concealer and a light reflecting product, but they're definitely in the middle. I think if it's just a light reflecting product, you will need to use an additional concealer as well. But this is the Marc Jacobs. This is called the Concealer Pen, and it comes like this little pen. I like with this that you can see how much concealer is left in the package. I think that's such a good idea. So you can actually tell when you're about to run out. A bit like a Uniball pen or something. It's got that kind of, shows you how low you are in ink. It's got a really nice metal applicator, so it's very cooling on the eye, which is great if you suffer from dark circles, and it will just help depuff a little bit. It's a wind-up pen. I find this a really nice liquid, and a small amount of this goes a long way. So I think I'm at the minute in the shade Rendezvous, which is the lightest one, but I've been really impressed with this. Another concealer that has a very similar application method is the Clinique Airbrush Concealer. This has been around for a long time now, and I think it's a great concealer. I'm generally a number 4 fair, I think it is, but this one's a peach one out my kit. Again, these are great. You just wind them up, really good for precision, and I like this just to lighten under their eye. And if someone has kind of general tiredness, I can generally just use this, but if they have really dark circles, I'll use this just where the shadowy areas are and then pat over with a slightly fuller concealer, fuller coverage concealer afterwards too. Something that you guys will have seen a lot in my videos that I've been a huge fan of, definitely since it released, was the Clarins Instant Concealer. Definitely the number 1 shade is the best out the shades. I think that's the only downfall with this concealer, is the number 2 is a very pinky shade, so it's not going to suit everyone, whereas number 1 and number 3 are much more yellowy base, so they're generally a little bit easier to mix. I think this is great value, this concealer, because you get so much in it. Again, it's a fluid form, so it's very easy to mix. It blends beautifully into foundation, and I find this really does just lift under the eyes. It's very good at lifting and concealing, but it doesn't feel heavy. So I think if you like to feel like you're not wearing makeup, the Clarins one is a really good one. A concealer that I always find doesn't get enough shout out or love on YouTube is the Giorgio Armani, the High Precision Retouch. It's very small. It comes like this. It has a really small kind of pinpoint concealing wand, like a little tiny thin paintbrush, so if you guys can see that. But I really like this concealer. It's one of those ones, again, that's very heavily concentrated, and the tiniest bit goes a really long way. So I really like this for under the eye, for darkness. I find it counteracts blue really well, and I find this to be quite a long-lasting concealer. And another one that's great because it's a liquid form, so again, it doesn't feel heavy on the skin, and I find you can reapply with this very easily. And I've used this in my kit for quite a few years now, actually, and I really enjoy it, and I kind of forget how good it is. So if you haven't tried that one by Giorgio Armani, definitely give that a go. So moving on to concealers with ever such slightly more coverage now, and ones that I think are been in my kit for a long time, and they really deserve the hype. The first one, which I was a bit late to the bandwagon with this one, is the Naked Skin Weightless Cover Concealer. Again, the shade range is very good. I think the fact you get a lot of product within the doe foot applicator will pretty much do your whole face, so you can use this for redness as well. But this does brighten under the eyes really well. You can layer on top very easily, so you can build small layers. I like to use that with a brush actually to kind of buff that one in, but I really like that, and again, that has deservedly had a lot of hype. So the second one that I feel is a YouTube favourite and beauty blogger favourite actually, is the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. Again, you guys will have seen me use this forever in my videos because it's a really trusted, well-loved concealer. I think this one offers ever so slightly more coverage than the Urban Decay one. However, I'd say if you have super dry skin, the Urban Decay one is a bit better. If you have more oily skin, I would go for this one. Some people say they found it cakes under the eye. I find on me it's great, and again, if I have someone with more oily skin, this is really long lasting, and I think the coverage on this is very easy to build to the desired consistency. So I'm a big fan of the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer, and again, there's a really good choice of colour options within this concealer. So for when you've had a really late night, or for whatever reason your under eye area is looking really dark, there are certain concealers that I love to use, and one of them is quite a new discovery. It's the Becca, this is the Ultimate Coverage Concealing Cream, and this has a kind of similar texture to Laura Mercier's Secret Camouflage. It's a little bit waxy. I find this applies best with fingers because it's quite a stiff consistency. It's quite thick, however, just applying a little bit lower down and then working your way upwards with this, patting in with your ring finger, really blends the product beautifully. And I find this to be very long lasting. Again, you could use this to cover spots as well, but for under eye, if you've got really dark areas, this is a very good concealer. So if you suffer with more dry skin and you want to kind of really treat and look after the area under the eye, one concealer that I go back to time and time again is the Double Wear. This is the Estee Lauder one. This is their full coverage formula, so you get high intensity with your coverage, but again, you can still build it to the desired effect you want. So if you need less coverage, you can just blend it in a little bit more with your finger. I find brushes and finger works really well for blending this one, but this is a really good one when you can't shift those under eye dark circles. So earlier I mentioned sometimes I use a product that verges on a light reflector and a concealer in one, something like the Airbrush Concealer by Clinique. So if I put this on someone and I felt they still needed that little bit more coverage, or had a very late night, sometimes I will go with a little bit of Secret Camouflage, and I'll just use a flat brush and just tap it over the top, but making sure that it doesn't look too heavy. So just blend, that's the key. But this is great to use with something like a reflective pen or a highlighter pen that you could use just under the eyes to bounce the shadows, and then just to get a bit more opaque coverage, Laura Mercier's Secret Camouflage is one I go back to time and time again. And last but not least, something that I do get out every now and then in my pro kit, as well as it featuring in my acne video, is the Dermablend. Now this is the foundation, liquid foundation. I personally find this works best as concealer. So obviously you could use this to cover port wine stains, acne, things like that, but I don't want to go into that too much because it's in a previous video. However, again, if someone has really dark circles and their skin's a little bit dry, something like this is really good because it doesn't sit in the lines. It's got a really smooth application. I like to use it with a brush. Super long lasting, it's waterproof, so it's good if you're in a hot country and you kind of don't want to lose your concealer under your eye area, but it just offers really, really good coverage. You can get the stick concealer form as well, which for me, it felt a little bit too heavy and I found that creased a little bit, whereas this one is beautiful. And this is the other one that I also love using in my kit. So I hope that was helpful and a little insight into some of my kind of pro favorite concealers, concealers that I love to use. They're really tried and tested. Definitely let me know what your go-to for under eye dark circles is that you like to use, and let me know why. And make sure you subscribe and like, and I'll see you soon for more videos. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.